No tricks, no subscriptions, no free trials that magically charges you next month. Remember that time when opening an app on your phone actually felt fun? A time when using any app on your phone was simple and actually free. You could play your favorite game without being slapped in the face with a 30-second ad. You could talk to your friends without paying for some premium plan. You could order food without pop-ups, promos, fees, and more fees. But little by little, subscriptions, ads, and updates ruined the whole experience. One tiny ad turned into two turned into a full commercial, then the app wouldn't even open unless you bought a subscription. And before we realized it, using an app, something that was supposed to make life easier, became frustrating, exhausting, and honestly, miserable. Because every update, every redesign, every new feature wasn't made for us. It was made to squeeze just a little more money out of us. And that's when people started to leave. Not because the apps got old, but because the companies behind them got greedy. When DoorDash first showed up, it felt like a miracle. You could tap a few buttons and food would appear at your door like magic. No cooking, no waiting in lines, no hassle. It felt modern, effortless, and honestly, kind of luxurious. People loved it because it made life easier, not harder. But then the cracks started to show. At first, it was just a small service fee, nothing crazy. Then another fee showed up, and another, and then the delivery fee quietly got higher. Before you realized it, you were paying more in fees than for the food itself. And it didn't stop there. DoorDash was caught using customer tips to subsidize driver pay, meaning when you tipped your driver, the company sometimes kept the benefit. The drivers felt cheated. Customers felt lied to, and the trust that once fueled the platform began to crumble. Prices kept rising. Restaurants added menu markups. App updates made everything more complicated, not more convenient. And suddenly, the thing that used to save you time and stress became a source of frustration. DoorDash had become the middleman who took a cut from everyone. Customers, drivers, and restaurants all at once. Everyone was paying more while feeling like they were getting less. Snapchat used to feel like the most carefree app in the world. You opened it, sent a goofy picture, laughed at your friends' streaks, and watched stories without a single worry. It felt young, creative, and especially, it felt free. But then Snapchat started changing lately. Slowly at first, then all at once. Ads slipped into stories. Fine, people could live with that. Then more ads, longer ads, then subscriptions. Snapchat Plus suddenly offered features that used to be free special icons, priority replies, better customization, all locked behind a monthly fee. But the moment everything snapped was when Snapchat announced that they are starting to charge people to save their own memories. Something that had been free for years suddenly required extra storage, monthly payments, and limits unless you upgraded. The app that once encouraged you to capture moments was now charging you to keep them. User frustration grew fast. People didn't want an app that felt like a slot machine. They just want the old Snapchat. You know, the one that was about friends, not fees. But before we continue, I want to ask you for some help. I am trying to reach 100 subscribers before the end of this year, so I'd really appreciate it if you want to help me out. Let's continue. Duolingo used to feel like the most wholesome app on your phone. It was fun, harmless, and weirdly addictive in the best way. You'd do a quick lesson, learn a few new words, and get a cute "great job" from the green bird. No pressure, no paywalls, no guilt. It felt like the one app that genuinely wanted to help you learn something for free. But then the switch flipped. Suddenly the bird wasn't cheering for you. It was pushing you. Hard. Notifications got more aggressive. Lessons were locked behind paywalls. The free version became cluttered with ads. And little by little, features that had been free for years were pushed into Duolingo Plus. Then came AI-generated content. Lessons started feeling robotic and repetitive. Users began noticing mistakes, broken translations, and a drop in teaching quality. People who had kept 500-day, 800-day, even 1,000-day streaks suddenly felt like the app they loved had changed its priorities. The worst part? Duolingo quietly shifted focus from learning to earning. Ads became longer, lives ran out faster, mistakes pushed you into pop-ups telling you to upgrade. The app felt less like a friendly teacher and more like a salesperson chasing your wallet. There was a moment in time when Skype wasn't just another app. It was the way people connected. Families used it to stay close. Friends used it for late-night calls. Businesses ran entire teams through it. Skype walked so Zoom and everyone else could run. And then it threw it all away. After Microsoft bought Skype, the app slowly shifted from simple and reliable to bloated and frustrating. Updates didn't make it better, they made it slower. Features people loved were removed. The clean layout was replaced with something that felt like it was designed by 10 different teams who never talked to each other. And behind the scenes, more changes were happening. Layoffs, restructuring, a push to monetize more. Skype credit, subscriptions, pay-per-minute calls, endless attempts to turn a communication tool into a cash machine. Users noticed the change immediately. Calls started dropping more often, video quality got worse. The app felt heavier, glitchier, and somehow more complicated with every update. Then Zoom exploded during the pandemic, and people switched almost overnight. Not because they wanted to leave Skype, but because Skype stopped valuing what made it special. PayPal used to be the safest name on the internet. It was simple. You pay, you get paid, and everything in between felt honest. No tricks, no hidden fees, just honesty. People trusted PayPal with their rent money, their side hustles, even their entire small businesses. It felt reliable in a world of sketchy online payments. But over the years, something shifted. PayPal started quietly adding fees. Small ones at first, then bigger ones. Transaction fees, withdrawal fees, currency conversion fees, business fees, chargeback fees, fees on top of fees. It didn't matter if you were a buyer, a seller, or just sending cash to a friend. Somehow, PayPal was taking a slice out of everything. Then came the sudden account freezes. People would wake up to find their money locked, their accounts limited, their funds held for review with no clear explanation. Days turned into weeks, weeks turned into months. And customer support? Almost impossible to reach. Stories spread everywhere. Artists losing income, small businesses unable to access thousands of dollars, users being told PayPal could keep their money for 180 days just in case. And that's why people really started leaving. Not because of a new competitor, but because PayPal stopped being the company everyone trusted. The honesty that they built for decades just evaporated overnight. Photoshop used to be the dream tool for anyone creative. Designers, artists, photographers. Everyone saved up to buy a copy. You paid once and it was yours forever. It felt empowering. It felt fair. If you wanted to create something, Adobe gave you the tools and you were free to work without stress. But then Adobe made one of the biggest shifts in software history, the jump to subscriptions. Suddenly, Photoshop wasn't something you could own anymore. It became something you had to rent, month after month, year after year. And if you stopped paying, everything disappeared. No access, no tools, nothing. For students, freelancers, and hobbyists, this wasn't just frustrating. It felt like betrayal. People who had supported Adobe for years now felt trapped in an endless payment cycle. Then came the upsells. Cloud storage fees, bundles, add-ons, ever-increasing monthly prices. Adobe wasn't just charging for creativity, it was squeezing it. And when AI tools were introduced, a lot of people felt Adobe wasn't adding value. It was replacing artists while still charging them premium prices. The resentment grew even louder. Photoshop didn't fall because the app suddenly became bad. It fell because Adobe stopped thinking about the people who actually use their tools. Instead of supporting creators, it started to feel like they were charging us for every breath we took. And that's what pushed people away. Not the software, not the features, just the feeling that Adobe cared more about monthly payments than the artists who built its reputation in the first place. Reddit was never just an app. It was a living, breathing universe built entirely by its users. Millions of people gathered there to share stories, solve problems, learn skills, argue, laugh, vent, and build communities that felt like homes. Subreddits weren't just forums, they were families. And the crazy part? All of this was run for free by volunteers who genuinely cared. But then the business side stepped in. Reddit announced huge API price changes. Costs so high that third-party apps, moderators, and accessibility tools simply couldn't survive. It wasn't just a decision. It felt like a slap in the face to the people who kept Reddit running. Thousands of communities protested by going dark. Entire subreddits shut down for days, some for weeks. Even the moderators, the backbone of Reddit, begged leadership to reconsider. But nothing changed. Reddit wanted revenue, and it was willing to burn bridges to get it. Then came more pushes toward monetization, paid features, more ads, limitations on what everyday users could access. The platform that had always felt open and community-driven suddenly felt corporate, controlled, and cold. Reddit didn't grow in spite of its users. It grew because of them, but greed made the company forget that. In the end, none of these apps died because people changed. They died because the companies behind them did. When an app stops respecting its users, people walk away. Simple as that. And that's exactly what happened here. These weren't just apps we used. They were apps we trusted. And once that trust was gone, there was no reason to stay.